Back to Contemporary Black Voices, where today's topic is about the systemic bullying of Black women in the workplace. So, when we start thinking about Black women, historically, we are the ones who may be representing more single households, single parent households, where we're probably more educated than a lot of people. We're probably one of the most educated populations in the United States, where we are accused of just being Black. I know that even growing up, I remember a case where back in the 70s, where a Black woman was working for a major hotel chain, and she was wearing braids when braids were starting to become popular. And she was fired for wearing the braids. So fast forward, I'm glad to see that the Crown Act is in force, although there's been some controversies related to how the Crown Act is applied. I've seen bullying in terms of related to one's color. The darker you are, there may be more opportunities. You may become more victimized because of your color. Again, hair, speech, all these factors, eyelashes, nails, it's kind of every inch of our body is being attacked, even our minds. You're too educated. So the bullying comes at us all kind of ways. Now, I'm going to throw this out here. What should HR departments, and you're in HR, what should HR departments do in training workers and and organizational leaders on what bullying looks like, and I'm not even going to say the economic effect that it has on an organization, because if I'm bullied to the point where I have to take sick leave,
right,
the organization does feel the financial burdens of that sick leave. So you want to talk about it?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, HR and these huge corporations are for the company. They're not really, we as Black women cannot comfortably go to HR and say, I have an issue. Something like a harassment has happened to me, or someone spoke to me in a demeaning way. I can't go to HR and say this without HR retaliating. But if it was anyone else, they would be protected. But are we really protected by HR? As Black women, are we really? And I'm going to have to say no. And especially in corporations where they do not respect us.
Well, let me tell you what I did. The woman who put out who economically bullied me to where I could not get a promotion, hence the economic aspects related to bullying, I felt. I immediately started looking for another job that really paid more than the job that I was seeking, and got it. And so sometimes, I know that Michelle Obama say when they go low, we go high. But sometimes you have to almost go into what we call the green room and strategize. Either you're going to stay in the organization or you're going to slowly work your exit plans because of it. But that does not mean that you won't get bullied somewhere else.
Right. And with that, you also have to be able to say, okay, I am aware that this is happening to me. Now, what do I do? Document everything. You speak to HR. I spoke to HR on this day, on that, with this time, and I had a falling out on the elevator with a coworker this day, this time. You document everything, because at that point, you're creating a paper trail they cannot refuse. They did it, and here is the evidence. So you can never go and say, hey, I have an issue and this is my problem, without giving your evidence, facts, because even in the court of law, if you do not bring evidence, it's just he say, she say. and it's hearsay in legal terms.
So my legal eagle.
So I'm glad you're asking me that, because that's called hostile work environment. When you only when you have the trail, it's called hostile work environment. So I want to talk about that just for a second.
Go for it.
That's okay. So I helped a friend out who called me on an emergency about hostile work environment, and she won a lot of money because of my help. I dropped everything, went over privately to her home, and spent about 6 hours helping her with that. So what you said is the accurate thing. There has to be a trail, because what happens with hostile work environments is HR has these compliance trainings in the US, as we know, for all corporations, and universities are also included as corporations. And HR is 100% only for the corporation. So, for example, if there's an employee who's problematic or a Black woman who's said to be hostile, but she's not, it's for the corporation. HR has to hire the right people who are not hostile. So when you say hostile work environment, you have to be very careful. Don't say it, because everything shuts down around the department you're in, the office you're in, and everybody's interviewed. And so oftentimes you would lose because it's for the corporation. So you have to have, as she mentioned, you have to have every trail, time, and date, which is what I told my friend and helped her with, and she did, and that's why she won a lot of money. And again, I'll emphasize, HR has us do compliance, all corporations, every year since maybe 9 years ago throughout the country for these kind of reasons. Because once you check off and say that you did do the compliance training, you can continue the next year with your contract if you did it. And your contract has told you what to do or what not to do.
Right.
And this is a federal
And
guideline.
state, yeah. Yeah, correct.
So we got to, I think this is a good point, is to understand the legalities behind what constitutes a hostile work environment. So the moment you start documenting, that's when the hostile work environment,
Not before, it has to be, yes.
it has to be
yes.
documented.
And everybody's going to be interviewed. And generally, when everyone's interviewed, you, the singular Black woman, will be a lone island.
Yes.
And so you won't win. But if it's documented, then you would.
Documented, and if there's anyone else in the workplace also being bullied too. Now you're building a case. Now you may, in this situation, could have a petition brought to HR with multiple complaints from employees. That's a strong fight. But
Okay, so in this
other than
case-
that,
So in this case, it was a strong fight with one person based on not being included in invites when the colleagues were included in invites, one person. So definitely you can win if you do it systematically. You have photographs, you're not invited to this group of people. They see you walking by at the restaurant, it's lunchtime, you're not invited each time, and you're just one person, you will win.
Okay. So again, I'm glad that I invited these two ladies on because of the background in law and how we as Black women can really navigate this territory better, understanding that you've got to document. Unfortunately, I didn't document, but I was able to get out within a year because I wanted to get out and did better. But with that being said, we're going to take a moment to step away for a break, and we'll come back to discuss an interesting trend. And again, it goes to the economic bullying, and we're going to talk about the Freedom Fund case.